I remember visiting my dad's family in Lima and driving down the road and seeing these shacks and shanty towns along the side and seeing how people live, you
Love
know.
that.
And so it was an awakening moment for me where I realized, wow, what I have is unique and I shouldn't take it for granted. And what I have and the privilege that I've been given, I need to make sure that I pass that on to other people as well. So I started getting involved in the immigrant rights community here in
Hmm.
Austin. There was a big demonstration that happened on May Day, which is Labor Day around the world, and a bunch of community organizers and immigrants were organizing to do a big demonstration. And I saw the power of what happens when people can come together and the power of community. And so I got inspired to work with the immigrant community. As a Latina myself, I felt, I'm bilingual. I
Yeah,
understand a little bit of the immigrant experience through my
absolutely.
dad, and
Yeah.
I also understand how power and privilege works. And so here in Austin, we were going through a major construction boom. For many years in a row, Texas, or Austin was the second fastest growing city in the country. I think things have slowed down a little bit now, but that meant tons of construction going on all the time. And a lot of construction workers were coming to this worker center with broken bones, broken limbs, getting hurt on the job, not getting paid for their work, being retaliated against. And I felt the need to help in whatever way I could. And so I helped them recover their wages when they weren't paid for their work. I helped them navigate the healthcare system when they got injured on the job. And so I really started working hand in hand with construction workers to try to improve the construction industry, not just in a band aid, let me help you with your case, but also let's figure out the systemic failures here and try to
Yeah.
address that at a policy level.
I'm sure that made you feel extremely elated to be able to kind of give to others. That's almost addictive, right? Where you want to continue that. You want to do more and more and more. So, how did you leverage that to do more?
Yeah, well, I saw that in order to create change, you have to organize at the bottom and also from the top down.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so the power of policy to create systemic changes and improve an industry such as the construction industry was a flag for me to get involved that way and to be able to do policy work where you could change the laws and then be able to help not just one person at a time, but tens of thousands of people, if not millions of people at a
How
time.
did you, like, when you say policy, right? It's like, I'm not a politician, so how would I know? Did somebody educate you on that system, or it was just by you helping others that you started to learn how the system works? Or did you go to school for that in political understanding? I'm very curious as to how you got into that.
I actually did end up going to school for that. I ended
Okay.
up getting my master's in public policy,
Okay.
but it was only because of my own lived experience of trying to create change and change the laws that led to my next step in the policy
Yeah.
field. We launched a campaign to get the city of Austin to provide a right to workers to take a rest break. So shockingly, the state of Texas does not have any laws on the book that give you the right to take a rest break. There's a big hole there. The federal government left it up to the states, and not surprisingly, Texas doesn't have a law on the books for that.
Did you do that? Because that's actually one of the things that I remember when I first moved here to Austin, that new policy came out because of the heat. And yeah, there needs to be a little bit of a timeout programmed in that way, or else I think it was great. I mean, in the Army, I come from the Army. That is absolutely, hydration is paramount. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
foundation. So when I moved to Texas and I heard that, I was like, why wasn't that in the? Congratulations! I think that's great. That number one, that trace lines to me. What, I was shocked that Texas didn't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. And through mobilizing and organizing, we were able to get a municipal ordinance passed that said that now you're allowed to take a rest break for 10 minutes every 4 hours. And people started to actually take advantage of that. And we saw that So many of the people getting hurt on the job was because of the heat. So it's really easy for your body temperature to climb and you not even realize it.
Right, right.
Especially as we're experiencing increasingly hotter summers and more extreme temperatures. Especially if you're working on a roof, it can be 120, 130 degrees up there. And so there's so many heat-related illnesses, heat stroke, and people were dying every summer because of heat stroke and heat stress.
Oh, wow.
And so we saw it was so important to pass that bill at the local level so that people actually had a right to take a rest break.
What did it do when you did that? I'm curious as to what you were feeling when you saw a need, you went into effect some change, and that it actually was delivered upon. How did that make you feel?
Well, I can't take all the credit.
No, I get it. It's a teamwork, and I recognize that. But I'm curious as to you were part of that in some regard.
I think realizing your own power and realizing that what can happen when you come together and work with other people and make your voice heard, and being able to do that at the local government level is really empowering. And once you have that level of success and that victory, you realize, oh, we can do so much more, and so
what's stopping us?
Yeah, exactly. And so in addition to that, there were other municipal level laws that were passed around OSHA 10 safety training to make sure all the workers get the correct safety training on the job so they can avoid unnecessary accidents. And so it was kind of a symbol to me that this is the right path. Like being able to make change at this level is the direction that I need to be heading.
That's so cool. That really is. And so tell me about...
I didn't know that you knew about that. I mean, that's not a lot of people know about that.
No, I'm telling you, that was one of the most shocking things to me. Look, not to steal it away from me, but I've trained in the Texas heat. And we have lost soldiers, and those are lives. And sometimes, and I understand, look, it's very much project based. You come in, you're reliant on certain company standards that may not be applicable to the environment. So I led soldiers before. And so it was always, what's the heat? What's going on? Hydrate.
Yeah.
Because that's the first thing that leads to so many other things. So when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh.
And it's so basic.
It's so basic.
It's the most basic thing of drinking water.
That's right.
And, in the construction industry, time is money everywhere, right? But especially in the industry where you have to get the projects done on time, everything's based on a tight timeline, quick turnaround. And so a lot of employers, especially lower down on the food chain, they're like, andale, vámonos, like, let's keep going, and so they don't carve out the time for it. And I'm not saying they're bad people, but inadvertently, it's just the way the whole system works.
Yeah, because you can't predict almost to the day if everything's going to go correct, right? And so sometimes people lose sight of the time.
Yeah.
In itself and the heat, and so I just as an aside, I've seen so many technologies that have come from cooling that really equate to the construction community. I mean, they've got really cool gear. You go to Boot Barn. Boot Barn has a whole western section and then almost a section for construction workers.
Oh, wow. And cooling down your body temperature?
Yes, absolutely cooling things. So, but I'm sure that technology was driven by mandates just like that. And now I think more that we see, maybe we're connected in some way. Health and human performance affects so many things, and insurance, the ultimate effect. So why not lead? It's more cost effective to do preventative than reactive in that way in all the industries. My brother grew up, he spent 23 years in civil development here in Texas. So even understanding from the management standpoint, this distinction of going and checking in on these things. So that's why when I heard that, it really resonated with me, because those stories that my brother told me, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that wasn't a standard.
And it's only getting worse. The extreme heat.
Oh yeah, that's what. Okay. I was like, oh my gosh, then what happened?
No.
Do they knock the policy down? But I get right.
Well, they did overturn it.
Oh man.
Every summer is record-breaking heat, right? Last summer was a relatively cooler summer compared to the summer before, which was the third hottest summer on record. And so, I mean, when the temperatures keep climbing, 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 what do all the people that have to work outside, what do they have to do, right? And so being able to prepare for what that future environment looks like is really important.
Yeah. Well, number one, how we met was under the brand Powerhouse,
Yeah.
which I absolutely love. And I can't wait for your swag to come out. I want to wear that T-shirt,
Yeah.
and you need to have that marketplace. But how did you enter into that world?
So the connection between the extreme heat and workers dying on the job and energy policy in Texas, the connective tissue there is the more extreme weather that we're seeing, the more extreme heat, and due in part because of climate change. And if you want to work on addressing climate change in Texas, you have to work in the energy policy space. Texas leads the nation in the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that we emit. We're, you know, ground zero for oil and gas production, for industrial processes, for petrochemical refining. There's a lot of industry in Texas, cement, steel. All of that is very energy intensive in Texas, and we pollute a lot in this state. It's a beautifully diverse state where there's so much economic opportunity here, but a byproduct of all the economic opportunity is a lot of emissions. And so at the same time, there's also this incredible opportunity that we have as a state because we're also the largest producer in wind. We're the largest producer in solar. We're one of the largest producers in battery storage. And so the opportunity that we have to create clean energy and that's going to drive our energy economy forward is just endless. You know, there's so much potential growth in the clean energy sector and energy innovation, carbon capture, hydrogen, nuclear. And so I saw that if I really want to try to work on climate change and mitigate and reduce the amount of emissions that Texas is putting out there, then I need to work in the energy policy space where we can foster good policy making that will help to accelerate our expansion to new energy resources.